This is a video to discuss your behavior modification project for your Intro to Psychology class. So give me a second here. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So this is the behavior modification project handout. You'll find it on Canvas, but I wanted to explain this to you. You're going to do this in 3 parts. Part 1 and 2 are due pretty quickly in the beginning of the semester. Now I'm going to create this video so I can use it again for different classes. So I'm not going to talk about due dates in here. Please make sure that you are checking your own syllabus to make sure that you know when these parts are due. And in fact, I'm going to edit the due word out of this right now. And your point value is slightly different here. Part 3 is only due. All right, so let me, I'm just doing a slight editing here. My apologies, I'm doing this before class started, and so I apologize for editing while I'm talking with you. Okay, so here's what behavior modification is about. Behavior modification is about changing some behavior that you have. It can be something as little as you need to go to bed at a different time, or stopping biting your nails, or whatever it is, to something as big as stopping smoking. I don't care what you pick, but you need to think about your own life, your own habits, and pick a habit that you want to change, okay? So part 1 of behavior mod is super simple. You are going to identify a behavior that you would like to change, keep it simple, try nail biting, smoking, overeating, starting an exercise program, whatever. Think of other things. I don't care what it is. I can't tell you what to do because it's based on what you do with your own life. And then type up a paragraph describing the behavior that you would like to change, how you would like to change it, and why this change would be valuable to you. Keep in mind, you should try to do only what is possible. There's no point in planning something that you will never carry out, okay? Because you're going to need to carry it out. So make it personal, make it something that you have an investment in, something that you believe you should do, but I don't care what it is. That is all you have to do for Behavior Mod Part 1. That's due very early in the semester. Simply type it up on a Word document and submit it in Behavior Mod Part 1. Part 2, you are going to look at the present situation and what is going on with this behavior right now. So you should type up the following. I would do a heading, the present situation, and then you can do the problem behavior. Tell me what the behavior is that you wish to change, how it should be described exactly as it occurs, indicating frequency, circumstances, and how you feel when doing it. Okay, this becomes the beginning of being aware of what your cues are. Your stimulus cues, there are stimuli in your environment that have become associated with the behavior that you wish to change. For example, smoking while drinking a cup of coffee. So many times people that are trying to quit smoking need to identify that they really like having that cup of coffee with their cigarette. And then they need to replace that somehow. They need to change that somehow. So what is going on? What are some of the cues? What goes along with what the behavior is that you have? Do you bite your nails because you're nervous? Do you eat a bowl of, Captain Crunch every night before you go to bed because it's habit or whatever? But this is not necessarily a 5-minute come up with an answer. You need to really think about what the stimulus is. And then reinforcement. What are you getting out of that? Okay? And we're going to talk about this more in a minute. Changes that you plan to make. What is the new behavior? And what are the new stimulus cues? What are the reinforcements for new behavior? And what is the behavioral change in the roadblocks? Okay, you have to think through what is going to happen, and no change is ever going to, nothing is going to become a habit unless you replace the old with the new, okay? So you have to think about, what are you going to do? So for example, if you are an overeater or you always have, let's say, a bowl of Captain Crunch before bed, think about why you do it, what you do, what are you getting from that? Maybe it's that you need to not eat that. Maybe it's that you need something to eat before you go to bed because you're hungry, but you're concerned about the amount of sugar that Captain Crunch has, so maybe you need to replace that with something else. Okay? Whatever you do as you're thinking through this, you have to be ready to change your behavior, and that means to put something else in its place. New stimulus cues, you know, what objects or events you plan to associate with the new behavior to help it become established, you know, how you're going to reinforce it, etc. What are going to be some roadblocks? And then part 3 is you're going to actually keep a journal of what is going on. So before you delve into the I'm going to quit smoking thing, which is great, hopefully none of you smoke, but if you do, you know, before you jump into that, be aware that you have to document every time something happens, okay? So in order to change that behavior, you got to know where it's coming from. So you're gonna keep a journal for 6 weeks. Now I've got this set up, so unless you are an 8-week class, I have this set up so this part is introduced and you have more than 6 weeks time to get it done. But you have to do it for 6 weeks. It is 100% crystal clear when students blow off this section. So you've got to make sure that you are on top of it. I don't care how you keep track. If you want to do, like some people that are trying to change eating behavior, they'll use something like MyFitnessPal app or Atkins or whatever to enter their food. Maybe you can do that. Maybe you have an online journal that you want to keep track of every time you bite your nails and what happened right before you bit your nails or whatever it is. But you have to keep a journal. At the end of each week, you'll type up a half-page journal entry. Now, what I suggest is you monitor behavior throughout the week because you're not going to remember on Saturday night what happened on Monday. You're going to keep this running journal. You can do it in one Word document. So you can do week 1 and give me the date and type under there, and then week 2 and type under there. Keep a journal, and you're going to turn in both the journal and the final report. So the journal is just going to be a running log, which might only be a couple of pages, maybe 3. If you do a half page a week for 6 weeks, you're on 3 pages. Your final report is going to be talk about what happened. Okay, so let's back up here. Let me give you a running example. I am actually, this month is my 6-year anniversary for quitting smoking. Okay, so that's why I kind of always go back to that. So prior to that, I was about a pack to a pack and a half a day smoker for a really long time. Probably 30 years or so. So quitting smoking was a very big deal. I had tried multiple times before, it didn't work, whatever. So if I was going to do this, I can go back and I can look at, okay, obviously I need to quit smoking, right? So I could type that up. Back then, the present situation would have been, you know, that I wanted to stop smoking. Stimulus cues, oh my, what would you like? Stimulus cues were, I was definitely a smoker with coffee. I was a smoker when stress happened. I was a smoker when I was on the phone. My biggest thing was at that time I was commuting to DeKalb and I smoked in the car. I would smoke after I ate. I mean, I knew that there were things that were associated with that. What was reinforcements? And even sitting here now, 6 years post change, every time I give this lecture about my progress with this, I'm like, oh my, I really could go out and have a cigarette. I won't, but I know what that felt like. Now, you don't have to do something as extreme as that, but I'm just using this as an example. For me, I had to really recognize what I was doing. So every time I wanted a cigarette, I had to find something else to do. So now I will truly say the only good thing was that I never smoked inside of my house. I always smoked outside, yes, even in the dead of winter. I either was on the deck or I was in the garage. So when that habit happened, so in the summertime, it was really bad because I'd get out on the deck with my phone and I would be talking and smoking. So I had to recognize the hardest one for me to change was the car. was when I was driving, I was used to a 45-minute commute, you know, X amount of cigarettes per time. And I had to figure out something to replace that with. So for me, initially, it was ice. I would take a cup of ice with me. Good ice, not hard ice. But those of you that are ice chewers, you know what I mean. I needed to know, and I needed to be aware of what my cues were. Still to this day, just last weekend, I had a stressful situation that was one of those overly stressful things. And I even said to the person I was talking to, it would be so easy right now for me to pick up a cigarette and smoke, because I recognized that it was a high stress time, that it was just something that we were dealing with, and it was super stressful for me. And in the past, I would have picked up a cigarette to help manage that stress. So for me, a reinforcement, it wasn't that I looked cool, I looked ridiculous, but it brought a sense of calm. Those of you that smokers, you get that. But it brought a sense of calm. It brought a sense of just, okay, you know, like I could just let it go. I could just sit back, and it was a calming thing for me. So I had to figure out other ways to calm. Okay. So the new behavior, this one was really hard for me because I had to figure out what the new behavior was going to be in many situations. So, you know, if you go way back, we used to be able to smoke in public places, like in bars and restaurants. So for me, that wasn't, I mean, we could sit at the bar and have a drink and smoke all we wanted. And not that I was a big drinker, don't take that the wrong way, but I am going to use alcohol as an example. You know, now people have to go outside and smoke. But one of the things that I knew, like if I went out somewhere, how I dealt with the need to not smoke was I didn't drink, because I can't. I can have one beer, and I'm 52 years old. I can drink a beer if I want. But if I have a drink, I can only really have one, because after that, if I start getting any sort of little effect of alcohol, I want a cigarette and I know I need to stop. So that's what we talk about with, you know, the new behavior was, and again, not that, please don't think that drinking was a big issue, but it was one of those things that I could fix. After dinner, you know, I would always go outside to eat after dinner. And one of the things that we did was we switched where we ate. So instead of eating at the breakfast bar, because it was so easy to get up and go outside, we actually moved to the table and made it more of a, when we were done eating, sitting back and talking. So I let that behavior go of putting dishes in the sink, walking and going outside. You know, whatever it was. So you have to think through what I'm talking about. Now, one of the things for me that started all of this was that I actually got pneumonia. That's how I started my journey with stopping smoking, because I was deathly ill for 10 days. It was like I couldn't even drive to school to pick up my daughter. That was that bad. But when I kind of like was functional again, I realized that I had gone almost 11 days without a cigarette. I'm like, oh. From there, I was able to identify when things were habits. You know how much more time I have now, because I wasn't wasting time getting up every 20 minutes or whatever to go outside and smoke. So I had more time with my daughter. We had more time after dinner, you know, just whatever. So trying to walk through this, and I suppose I should go back to my, I could go back to my actual screen here, but trying to go through this process of quitting, it became really important for me to recognize when I would have had a cigarette and then replace it with something. Whatever you choose to do with your behavior modification, if you don't have something to replace it, it will never work. So this is why, for example, many times people who are smokers gain weight, because they might replace smoking with gum or food or whatever. And, you know, it's not intentional, but, you know, even if you replace it with, you know, eating carrots, you're still eating extra food. This is why you'll see a lot of smokers that chew gum, or they have to do something with their hands, or I'm always a talker with my hands, always have men, but you have to figure out what you want to do. One of my friends that quit smoking actually used a fidget spinner when they wanted to smoke, because it gave them something to do with their hands. whatever it is, when you're walking through this process of what behavior it is you're going to change, make sure it's significant enough, but that you are very aware of what your pattern and routine is, because there is a pattern and routine to it. You know, for me as well, one of the, and there will be multiple things. For example, let's go back to that, you know, you eat a bowl of Captain Crunch every night before bed. You know, could you look at that as, okay, Captain Crunch is, you know, ridden with sugar and all that good stuff, but, you know, you want to replace it with something healthier or whatever. Maybe you replace it with something that is better for you. And, you know, maybe you start to think about, okay, I can buy a bag of baby carrots that will get me through the whole week that costs me $1, or I can buy, you know, the $3.29 box of cereal or whatever it is. One thing for me that I did when I was quitting was, you know, if you're a smoker, you know, cigarettes are not cheap. And when I was still buying them, they were just hitting $7 a pack. I know, it's insane. But if you think I was even at a pack a day, that was $50 a week that I was spending. For me, it was a visual. I would make a point every morning of putting that money that I would have spent on cigarettes into a jar. I had like $250 by the end of the first month. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's a car payment to some people. That's a Comcast bill. You know what I mean? It was easy to do. One of the things that I would always do would just be I stop at the local gas station. I would get coffee and I would grab cigarettes. I couldn't go in for a really long time. And then I was able to go in and just get coffee. And I knew it was bad when the person working said, no cigarettes today. I'm like, nope. And actually it was really good, because once I said it out loud, I'm like, nope. Then it became easier to turn them down. One of the things about changing your behavior also has to be that you have to see yourself as that changed person. So again, you don't have to go as big as being as quitting smoking, but for me, one of the biggest things is you're never going to be successful, for example, if you don't see yourself as a non-smoker. And I just said this to my sister who was trying to quit. I knew she wouldn't quit because she wasn't ready to quit. She didn't have anything to replace it with. And I said, it's a shift in your thought. Am I a person who is a smoker, or am I a former smoker? I'm quitting smoking. Or am I a non-smoker? I now identify myself as a non-smoker. Now for this I used that I smoked, but I am a non-smoker. It's a different shift in thinking. So again, you don't have to go that big, but I want you to go that big when you're thinking about what are your cues, what are your triggers, why are you biting your nails? Do you bite them when you're nervous? Okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to fix that? And then as you start working through, I'm looking at the sheet, sorry, I don't mean to look away from you. I'm looking at my other screen with the assignment on it. As you start to keep your journal, you know, watch and go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I always do this. I do this and then I need this, or I was upset about something and I bit my nails, or whatever it was, or I was sad so I ate. Whatever it was, start keeping track of that when you do your journal, and you will start to see a pattern in your behavior, and that will make it easier to change it. You know, again, this is very personal. You're not, so you have to really think about what is in your life. Please keep in mind that if you, and I just have to say this because I had a student that did this and it was great. I'm glad the student did what they did, but understand that I may need to deal with things. If you're going to tell me that you're going to try to stop using illegal drugs, I need to talk to my boss about that. Do I need to report you? I don't know. It could be considered the harm to self or others category, but it's illegal. It's just like if you told me that you robbed a bank, I would need to call the police. So remember that in the city of Rockford, if you're smoking pot, it's legal as long as you went through the legal avenues to obtain that. I don't need to know. Okay. But just, I mean, know that if you're going to tell me that you're going to try to stop using heroin, I need to deal with that. So choose wisely what you tell me. But if you're smoking pot, I mean, I'm going to assume that you got it at a dispensary, and I'm not going to question anything. Again, I have to say that I don't think that that's what y'all are doing. I don't expect that. Many of you are underage, so you shouldn't be doing anything illegal anyway. You know, so please, and you know, some of this stuff, I may reach out to you depending on what it is. If you try to tell me that you're trying to quit drinking, you know, I may reach out to you and say, how's it going? And do we need to talk about an AA meeting and work through part of this behavior mod with you? It's okay. I will do that, but just be aware that I may reach out to you. So that's really all that you're going to do with this. As long as you are putting forth a good effort, and I can tell that you have really thought through things, you're going to get all the points. Okay. Now, the problem becomes if you didn't do, like if you only do part 1 and you don't do part 2 and 3, you lose a bunch of points. You need to do all 3 points or all 3 sections to earn all the points. If you're going to change your behavior halfway through, you need to let me know. But don't change it once you start into the 6 weeks, okay? All right, so email me if you have questions about it. Otherwise, I want you to have fun with it. I want you to really think about what your personal habits are and what you can change. So we will talk about it again soon, I am sure. Have a good day, guys.